Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, we hear so many stories about drug-related deaths, and fortunately, it's not happened in my life, but I know that Dean Webb, who is the CEO of Faith Farm, has seen it, has heard about it. I don't think it's happened in his family either, and we're thankful, but we do have places for people to go, and sometimes it's too late. They don't go quick enough. But let's just talk about the people who you have, people who are now coming in, your admissions, and let's just see if people who are listening can relate to them, and maybe they'll make that phone call.
Well, thanks, Anita. I love to talk about Faith Farm. We're a free 440-bed, free 10-month program, recovery, and we draw from all 50 states, which means we also draw from all economic and religious and educational backgrounds. They're just, we don't discriminate at all. I mean, we've got Jewish people, Muslim people, Christians, and the bottom line is they have a need to change. And some people come in our place, everybody who comes into Faith Farm needs us. Not everybody particularly wants to change. Some of them are just trying to get out of the cold, so to speak, and get a fresh bed with linens and clothes and just take a respite, just a breather. And but usually that's not true. Predominantly, most of the people that come to us are people who are desperate to change, and they finally said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to change my life." And so they've come to the bottom, and they turn around. Now that can hit all income levels, all educational levels. We've had people that spoke multiple languages, people that had no high school diploma. We've had people that, we've had multimillionaires come in that have lost everything. They're not multimillionaires when they come in, but they were. People that have spoken multiple. We had a guy that spoke 7 languages fluently that came into our Boynton farm, and we just have them from all over in all various walks of life, which tells you how bad the opioid epidemic is. It's just hitting everybody at all education and income levels.
Now we talk about opioid, but let's go back to how Faith Farm really started. It was alcoholism.
Yeah, and we've been around. In October will be 67 years, 66 as we speak. But the first 20 years when we start back in 1951 in Fort Lauderdale, it was primarily alcoholism, and our founder, Reverend Garland Eastham, discovered that he wasn't seeing change. Okay, same guys were coming back every night. They smelled of alcohol. They got a fresh bed, a meal, that sort of thing, but he wasn't seeing change. That's when he started lengthening the program and say, if you really want to change, you stay here longer. And he started educating them about the cause of addiction. Well, that was true for about 20 years, and it grew so much that he just outgrew his area. He actually bought 13 acres on the outskirts of Fort Lauderdale because his church was right downtown, and he used the basement for that. And he built up a 10-acre campus with 3-story dorm and a church and a thrift store and all that. Well, eventually, after 20 years, it became totally full, and yet the street drugs like heroin and cocaine and all that were starting to play a prominent point. So he went about 40 minutes north of Lauderdale up to Palm Beach County in Boynton Beach and bought 90 acres and started another campus there. And it took about 22 years for that to be totally filled up, had 134 beds there. So then he went north of there and went to Okeechobee. That's when all the prescriptive pill mills and prescriptive medicine started kicking in. So we had drugs and alcohol, and then drugs, and then prescriptive drugs. So that's our 440 beds. Unfortunately, we got a waiting list, and it doesn't mean that sometimes somebody will do something and they leave. It's a volunteer program. So they'll leave, and one day somebody's praying to get their son in the program or their daughter, and all of a sudden we got an opening. And the day before we didn't because somebody left. So we urge people to go online and apply and get in queue, do an interview with the intake counselor at one of the campuses, and then so they're in queue so that when we have an open bed, they can be called to be admitted.
We have two people. John Considine is watching, and Elaine Kablitz. Let me just go back, though. So are you seeing the call them tries? You have the alcohol, the very serious drugs, the heroin, and then you have the opioids. You seeing all of them?
Oh yeah, we get them all, and it's really funny. We've done a lot of study on the causes of addiction, and there are a lot of different things, but there's kind of a thread that runs through the addiction thing, and usually it starts in teenage years. Peer pressure and that sort, to take a drink or to smoke a marijuana cigarette or something, and then at some point they get used to that and they want more. That's when the scale tips and they start, well, I'll try shooting up, I'll try cocaine, I'll try something else, a stronger drug. And the sad thing is, as your body builds up an immunity to this stuff, and you end up having to take more and more and more, and that's where the addiction comes in.
But Dean, and my guest is Dean Webb. But Dean, so as they're getting a little higher, they have a drink, their families aren't as important to them anymore because they know what they're doing. Do they not talk to their families, or are there people who are more addictive than others, and that's why some people can handle it and some people can't?
Well, yeah, I think anybody can get addicted, but I think I've read some studies where there are certain genes that have a propensity towards addiction. And for example, at 5 o'clock locally, at any location in the United States, there's people who go to happy hour and they'll have a couple of drinks on the way home. Doesn't affect them at all. There are other people that can take one drink, they've got to have the next one, then they can't stop, got to have a third, and they just have an addictive personality. They cannot quit. And some of that's personality, some of it's taste, some of it's their gene pool. It could be a combination of those, but some people just can't quit. They just can't do what they call be social drinkers and just have a drink at a social event or on the way home and stop.
So what you're saying then is that certain people, although they have addictive personalities, maybe other results come in and they can somehow work it out. But when they come to Faith Farm, they still have that addictive personality.
Yeah.
And how are you able now to change that? You're not going to change it, are you? You're going to modify it.
You can't change their genetic makeup, but what you can do is you can transform their mind. We're a faith-based organization, so we use biblically based principles to teach people about the causes of addiction. The basic underlying thing of our thing is you're worthy. God loves you. God loves you. And he doesn't love you because you all of a sudden get good. He loves you because you're his child. And so you don't have to do anything to earn God's love. It's just there.
So
you
they
have
don't
to receive
know this
it.
before, is what you're saying.
They
don't know this.
There's so many religious rules and stuff. If you do this, you're worthy. If you do this, God will accept you. If you don't do this, he won't, he'll judge you. And they've grown up with such a mindset that they don't understand the basic concepts of God's love. The scripture says God is love. That's who he is. And so we teach them that they are worthy in God's eyes, whether they are in their own eyes or their parents' eyes or whatever, that they are worthy. And so it doesn't mean they don't have to do anything to do that. Being a human makes them worthy. And so we have to start with that concept and change that mindset so that it goes from the negative to the positive, and say, I am a child of God. I am wonderful. And we start with that as just the basic stuff. Of course, we do build on that and do a lot of other training. We have a little program we call Houses. That's where you go. Now, this is later in the program after you built up kind of a foxhole buddy camaraderie with the other guys or the women. And there's an element of trust because people drop off as they go through the 10-month program. And so by the time you get into the 8th month, you might have gone from a class of 35 down to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, 7 to 11, somewhere in there, because people have, for whatever reasons, have dropped out of the program. By then, you've built up such a, what we call foxhole buddies for the Navy, such a camaraderie that you trust your classmates enough for you to go to the blackboard and write up and draw out a little stick figure of houses and stick figure of everybody in the place that was in that house. Then you go to the next house you lived in, and you put all the houses you lived in on the board. Then you go back and describe it. Our director, Troy, when he came through the program 19 years ago, he worked up. He's now our number one buyer of furniture and our number one marketer in the thrift store. He runs the biggest thrift store in the country. But anyway, when he said when he got to the third house, when he was going through this, he looked and he realized of all the stick figures he had brothers and sisters and, of course, his mom. He realized there was no male figure in there. He had no father. And he said, I broke down and wept because I realized my mother had 7 kids by 7 different men. And to this day, my other siblings know who their birth father is, but I still don't. He said, I don't know. And my mother's dead. And he said, so for me, it was real easy to accept that God was my father because I didn't have any other father. And so there's all sorts of epiphanies that happen. Things come up where people have to deal with everything from unforgiveness. And, of course, our pastors on each campus are the ones that teach the houses. And what happens is they go to an hour-a-day class through the program, and then they go to the work project. They could be in recycling, thrift store, whatever. But when they get to the final couple months, they go to a half a day of classes because it takes a long time to work through these problems. You'll take probably one guy a day to work through the houses thing. But what happens is the things surface when you're doing that, when you're dealing with your past. Things surface, and you realize that you've just have had unforgiveness for somebody.
Let me just tell you that Dr. Mark J. Gannon. Good morning, Dr. Gannon. It's so nice to know you're watching. He's he helps people with macular degeneration. He's a fabulous doctor. Anyway, keep
great.
Going. I'm sorry.
That's great. Hi, Doc. Welcome. Yeah, I'm always glad for people to find out about Faith Farm because everybody has somebody in their family tree or history or neighbors or somebody who's affected by drug and alcohol addiction.
So the one thing, and you were on that track, and I just want to explain it. When I see people come picking up a lot of the goods that people want to donate, or they're cooking, or they're doing things, that's helping them to feel worthy also, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it makes them feel productive. And they realize that they're earning their keep. I mean, by working, that makes because it costs $2,700 a month per person. And that's a lot of money.
That's a good time for me to plead with people. If you are listening, please send some money to Faith Farm. They do incredible, incredible things for people, for other human beings. A lot of people don't know how to donate to people, but you can just get in touch with faithfarm.org. You can write them a check, $100, $1,000, whatever you can write, because they really, you can see the results. It's not like it's in some big pot, and yes, maybe somehow like the Red Cross, they do good things, but when you see a person graduate, and I go to a lot of the graduations,
you were at our last one. Yeah.
I know, I see the results.
Yeah.
And these are good people, and then I'm always amazed that a lot of them are so appreciative. They go out and they're always try to help other people, whether they start their own group, but they don't forget what your organization has done for them.
Yeah, no, we have a guy that's a truck driver, and I kept seeing these checks come through, so I tried to inquire. He graduated about 10 or 11 years ago, and he is so grateful for being off drugs and his life transforming. He sends us like $400 a month.
You're kidding.
Just every month. I mean, he just is so full of gratitude for his life change from Faith Farm. And so
wow,
that doesn't always happen. Very few people give back like that.
But even $25 just to let everyone know that you are grateful, or people in the public that we're grateful to have your organization. And I don't know if people understand that a lot of the judges are so perplexed they don't know what to do with these people, but they have found Faith Farm. If they think the person has any possibility of getting their life back, they commit them,
Yeah.
I'll use the word, to Faith Farm and say, if you stay there, do the program, you don't have to go to jail.
Right. A lot of them do that. We have 17 judges in Broward and Palm Beach County that I say sentence people to Faith Farm because we're faith-based. It's not politically correct to combine the court system, with the religious. But they do give them an option of coming in lieu of incarceration, and a lot of times they'll elect that option. And when they do come, they have a life change, and the judges know that. They just can't sentence somebody, and like you said, we've had so many things where in the chapel services they'll pray that the judge will have a soft heart when they get ready to graduate, and a lot of times they'll commute and wipe their sentence off, and they're clean, and they're expected to be a felon and not be able to vote and all that stuff, and he'll expunge their record and wipe it off because he sees such a dramatic change in that person's life.
So for you, and this is kind of a new thing for you in a sense. I think you've been there, 10 years? How many years?
11 years now.
11. This was not something that you grew up with. This wasn't your
Oh,
cup
no,
of
listen,
tea.
I was a preacher's kid. My dad was so strict, I couldn't smoke or chew or go with girls who do. I couldn't play with cards or dice, or I couldn't go to movies. I mean, I grew up in the most restrictive thing. And I'm so aggressive that it was, I look back on that now and realize that restrictiveness was a blessing for me. I didn't think about it at the time. I didn't believe, I was really upset. I couldn't do what all the other kids do. But I don't know if just my,
Now we have Lloyd Hasner. He's watching also. Lloyd is a very big real estate developer, actually. I know my husband Bill used to know Lloyd, but he got some really nice people listening. And I hope that people who are watching, listening, that they appreciate what you do. You come here, you take your time to be on the radio, because I know you have so many meetings and you have to watch over all this. That's the other thing. I know you have great people who are there, but you're an excellent manager of your time. But let's go back to what I was saying. Knowing you, this was not your business. You went into the Navy. I think your experience is really worth telling.
Well, I was about to get drafted, so I signed up, went in the Navy, went through OCS, and got my commission. I was a Vietnam veteran. I went through the Navy Communication School, and when I got off active duty, when I came back from Vietnam tour, I was in Pensacola, and I had a top secret clearance, and I decrypted messages for 3 admiral staffs, and the old thing with the bracelet, and I'd deliver them to the three different admirals. They were located, their commands were on Pensacola. And I did that. And then I went to training and became a stockbroker with Merrill Lynch. And while I was in training in New York, I was in the Stock Watch program where we'd go down the catacombs and I'd pour through records of trades and spot irregular trading patterns in stock and report those. And then I came back to Atlanta and did that. Then I left and started my own real estate syndication firm, and I syndicated over 2,800 apartment units in 5 states, and then I became a head of a nonprofit called Christian Financial Concepts in Gainesville, Georgia, where I ran that for Larry Burkett, who had a live radio ministry and wrote books and changed people's lives, got them conservatively financed based on biblical principles, and then I went and was an acquisition director for a company called Sterling, who had 84 senior units from Florida, the whole Sun Belt, from Florida to San Diego, and we managed properties. And then from there, I came here.
Floyd, you ought to get this guy. I know he's CEO of a Faith Farm, but you never know. You might want to give him a call because he's a good guy for anything.
Well, I've been CEO of 6 different. I was even CEO of a thing called PromiseNet. It was a telecommunications company that we did discount long distance service. So if you're good at management and you can get up a quick learn, all 6 organizations I've run have been totally different, including Faith Farm. I've never had any experience with drug and alcohol.
Right, and it was funny how when this recruiter got in touch with you, it was like, I'm not going to go do that. Less money down in South Florida. But I think you said to me, just recalling, when you got to meet some of the people and you see what they do and what they did, it just touched your heart, didn't it?
Yeah. My brother was a top salesman, and he always got to bring somebody to where he came to win awards, and he was on the Disney World thing in Orlando, and he said, my wife's sick of these. Would you come with me? And I was between jobs, so I said, yeah, come on. It's free meal, nice hotel. I was sitting there, and the phone rang, and I was sitting by the pool on Sunday afternoon. I was getting ready to go back, and the sun was so bright I couldn't see the screen. I went ahead and did the flip phone, and it was Ginger, the headhunter, and she'd been nagging me for 90 days. She said, you are so perfect for this job. I'm telling you, you've got to go down there. Where are you right now? I said, well, I'm sitting by a pool in Orlando. And then she says, oh, my God, you're halfway there from Atlanta. She said, cancel your flight and go. So anyway, she arranged for me to come down, and I said, I want a car to pick me up at 6 a.m., and I want to drive to the Okeechobee campus. I want to look at that. Then I want to see the Boynton Beach campus, and then I want to go down to Fort Lauderdale campus.
And then no, I have to leave on an airplane because that's it, right?
No, I stayed overnight, and that was a Monday because it just happened. The board meeting was every Tuesday night. It was on that Tuesday night. So once I saw, I tell you, my heart was so touched when I saw these people in such need. And to see the people that were laying down their life to help them. About half of them had been addicts in the past. Another half were like me and never touched the stuff. But it didn't make any difference. Their heart was so there to help these people turn their life around. And quite often, guys in our graduation will talk about the great coursework, all the stuff they learn, practical. But they'll also talk about working shoulder to shoulder on the dock, loading furniture that's donated to the thrift store and put out on the sales floor and picked up from the donors who call us to pick up the stuff free. And they said, I learned so much just working shoulder to shoulder with this guy. I learned as much as I did in class, and this practical stuff.
Well, it's interesting. I'm so dedicated to what you do. I have literally people calling me. I've got this stuff. Can you make arrangements for them to pick it up? I said, please call faithfarm.org. I'm kind of like, you've seen the TV thing where someone says, oh, I want to do something. Well, listen, don't call me, call so-and-so. But
if you called us, we would have to ask you to tell the people to call us so they can schedule it. We run 7 to 9 business days behind at like the Boynton campus to pick up stuff. So it's got to be put in the system in queue to say. And that's, by the way, that's how grateful we are. It shows we're so grateful to people who donate to us because to be that far behind when you got 26 trucks picking up stuff, that says a lot about the community and how they care for Faith Farm. And thinking of us instead of a garage sale and getting a tax-deductible donation for having us pick up their stuff.
Right, and then all these people come every morning seeing what they can get, and you told me those stories of antique dealers and people, and you told me that sometimes people don't know what they're donating, and the antique dealers really know, and they wind up with a real killing.
That's true.
But are you still having your auto sales?
Yeah, we're setting our annual auction. I don't know the date. Judy just changed it. I think it's October. It's in October, but it's the second or third Saturday.
And I've
I don't
seen
remember
some
which.
fantastic cars go by there.
Oh, we had a lady who had a little 2-seater Mercedes, and she was going to trade it in, and I don't know what dealer it was, but they would only give her $1,000 credit for this car. And if you went on in the Blue Book, it was worth about $12,500. So she got mad. She said, I'm not going to let them steal this from me. So she donated it, and that car went for like $4,500. I was on vacation in Atlanta, and I got, oh my God, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. Because back before I did nonprofit stuff and made money, I drove a little 2-seater convertible. That was my Mercedes. That was my favorite car I've ever had in my whole life. Yeah, I would have bought it because it was in good shape.
Well, the nice thing, though, Dean, is you have this beautiful personality of kindness and goodness, but then the best part is you're a great manager, and that's why everybody is so dedicated to you. I see that when I go to the events. They I don't want to use the word worship you, but they really admire you. That's why they see someone like yourself who is so devoted to what you do, and it helps them because they have higher aspirations than, there are a lot of executives, you hardly ever see them. They come, they go, they don't have nice things to say, but you're not like that, and I think you're very important.
Somebody once said, man, you just lavish so much praise on people, and I said, well, I'm genuinely grateful because if they're not here doing their job, I got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. It overloads everybody around them. So I'm thankful for every little thing that everybody does.
Yeah, and you and I don't want to forget all those wonderful people who do work there in the capacity. Now, some of them, I guess you hire some people, but most of them are the students who now decided they want to stay, they want to help, they want to work there. And I know you can't pay them as much as other people can pay, but I think it becomes where it's almost like and I'm not going to use the word cult, because that's has a negative part, but in a sense, it's a good cult. People say, oh, I see so much good going here, and I don't want to get into that tough corporate world because people usually don't feel the same way. So you have great admiration for me, you know that. And this is faithfarm.org. This is Dean Webb, who is the CEO. And for those of you, and I always get on my hands and knees to beg, just please do try to send some money in there. They're trying to recover from Irma, which was very hard on them, but there's always needs, because if they got a lot more money, they could take and build more rooms so that they could have more people. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Dean, it's always wonderful talking to you. We've had a lot of nice people listening, and I hope that, good things come from this show.
Well, it usually does. We've had people from comments you made put us in their will, and those money, you don't waste anybody to die, but when they do, the timing has just been incredible.
Well, don't put it in the will. See it now. If you donate money, you'll be able to see it before you die. Anyway, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Appreciate it.